People who sleep naked. When has it backfired? I used to sleep naked. Now I own a cat. Those two overlapped for only a week. Garfield did nothing wrong. There was one morning in high school when my dad decided to wake me up for school by ripping the covers off me in bed. That was the last time that happened. My dad used to dive onto the bed to wake me up as a kid/teen. Once I started sleeping nude, he only did it once. I had a closet-sized single dorm room and people would always pull the fire alarm in the middle of the night and we'd all have to go outside. One time I was so drowsy I just walked out instinctively and halfway down the hall I raced back. Thankfully this was an old building so I didn't get locked out of the room. Either I'll burn or I'll make it out alive. But I'm going to wear pants. I locked myself out of my flat whilst sleepwalking one. My girlfriend was on holidays so I had to wait until morning. Borrow a towel off a neighbor and then walk about a mile up the road to the estate agent to get a spare key. When I was about 13 or 14, I used to sleep naked. Until I started to sleepwalk a lot. Never slept naked ever again. A few years ago, I was working a night shift and had just returned home at 7 a.m. I was so tired that I didn't close the front door properly. After I activated the house alarm, I went to my room and undressed myself and went to bed. I wake up to the alarm blaring and I look around my room as I hear yelling. I see there are two female cops in the house with their guns out and one of them was pointing it at me. I'm half asleep and not really understanding what was going on. The officer asked if I lived here. To which I said yes. Then she ordered me to show her my ID. My ID, which was in my wallet, was on my dresser. I pointed her to where my wallet was. She ordered me to show it to her. And I said I couldn't get up because I was naked under my blanket. So, while still pointing her gun at me, she opened up my wallet. After that, the cops left and, after securing the front door properly, I went back to sleep. My favorite part is that two trained professionals found it conceivable, and even probable, that someone broke in to take a morning nap like Pin Goldilocks. When in uni my room was right in front of the university. So when looking out my windows you would look straight into classrooms. So one day the inevitable happened. I had forgotten to close the curtains at night. You couldn't see me while I was in bed due to the head of the bed obstructing the window. However, getting out of the bed would expose my entire naked body to the world. So any bored student whose sight was wandering off outside the classroom window could get a nice viewing of my naked body. The way I fixed it was by simply rolling up in my bed sheets and sort of hop to my curtains in my bed sheet roll. I am male BTW. So I didn't have to cover up breasts. Why close the curtain? Free advertising. I was at a house fire once during the night and the homeowner slept naked. When we arrived he was running around his front yard naked with a garden hose. Thankfully he was not injured and we were able to salvage most of his belongings. And the one thing he said is that he learned to now sleep with shorts on. My dad always sleeps in the nude. One day the neighbor's house across the street caught fire after the gas-powered water heater exploded. He could hear the homeowner screaming for help all the way from inside our house. So, still naked, he ran into the burning house and carried her out. Firefighters said if he had been wearing clothes the heat from inside the burning building would have ignited them and he would possibly have burned to death. So instead of backfiring, sleeping naked actually saved your father's life. This is a whole new meaning to the word backfire. Never chased a burglar down the stairs. Through the kitchen and out my front door without wearing a shred of clothing and no weapon in hand. The power of nakedness. What were you yelling out of curiosity, and did they have a weapon themselves? Undefined. Woke up and saw a person prowling around in my hallway. Launched myself out of bed and into a dead sprint. Screaming, "Get the beep out or die!" I was blinded by fear and rage. I don't recall seeing a weapon. But had they had one, I was defenseless and would have been in a really bad spot had they chosen to use it. The burglar didn't say anything. I'm assuming they just panicked and their first instinct was to run. Guess they didn't want to fight a naked guy. Who does want to fight one, tbh? Arresting someone for burglary and assault is embarrassing, but arresting someone for burglary and assault against an unarmed naked person is just something that I would be terrified of having happen to even my enemy. Basic training. Getting called out of bed because someone fell asleep on guard duty. My private was standing at attention. At ease. I normally don't do this. But one summer night I had a meal from my local Mexican place that I love. Since I was busy that day, I didn't have lunch and decided to get significantly more than what I normally order to cure the hangry. I also did not get an opportunity to poop that day. Since it was unusually hot that night, I decided to ditch everything and sleep bare. After one very realistic dream of me on the toilet. Let's just say that I had to get a new set of bed sheets the next morning. Speep happens. Shart art. I started somewhere in high school because of night sweats. In college I moved into an on-campus apartment alone, and the very next morning I woke up to 3 grown mid-50s dudes with their faces in my window. My bed was directly below the window. University housing gave some BS excuse about my window needing maintenance. Just my window specifically. None of the others in the entire complex. The window wasn't even designed to open. I think they were being pigs, but I was 1,000 miles away from anyone who cared about me. And just let it go. I was in middle school and had been sleeping naked under the covers for years while my parents would come in and wake me up. Somehow, my body always managed to stay the blanket by the time morning rolled around. So I was never worried about someone coming in the morning only to see my bare self exposed. Well, one Saturday, I was sleeping in and there was some event that my parents wanted to go to along with my older sister and me. They asked her to go in and wake me so that I could get ready. My several years long streak of successfully being hidden by the blanket ended that day as my bare ass was exposed to the door of my bedroom. I woke up to the sound of my sister screaming at the top of her lungs, shouting, "Ew, why do you sleep naked?" I just remember thinking, I can't believe that after all that time of people coming into my room and waking me up with me being under the blanket. The one time I wasn't full under was the one time my sister came in. When we were robbed at gunpoint. It is awkward enough having a gun to your head. And being naked didn't help. When I backfired. I think of my poor husband on vacation in Europe. The one time I convinced that man to sleep naked so he can be more comfortable, lol. We wake up. To what we thought was the middle of the night. To blaring fire alarms in a hotel in London. He rarely sleeps naked. So he bolted out of bed assuming he was in boxers. Grabbed his slippers and ran out the door. Meanwhile I was getting dressed right behind him, trying to get his attention to get dressed. He kept thinking I was worried and was yelling over me. I managed to get clothes on while he remained naked. We ran down 4 flights of stairs. Made it to the front desk to ask what the commotion was about, only to find out it was 4 p.m. and this was a routine test of the fire alarms throughout the hotel. The hotel clerk then looked at my husband and said, despite being in Europe, we have a strict no nudity in the hotel lobby policy. I died laughing. My husband finally realized he wasn't dressed, looked at me and my pajamas and started to grab Kleenexes to cover up. The whole way up to the hotel room in the elevator he was upset I didn't tell him. I couldn't stop laughing, so I began to cry. We looked like a hot mess getting out of that elevator. Best vacation story ever. My crush came over to study with me and I walked out butt naked. She just looked away. We've been dating for 4 years now. I was in the mental hospital. And my roommates and I were pretty close, so I was fine sleeping in my underwear. Sleeping there sucks. So I'd do anything to get a little more comfortable. Anyways. You get 15-minute checks there. Even through the night. I guess I wasn't ready when they shined the flashlight in and I covered up quickly. I got in trouble and was put on boundary precautions. There was a red dot by my name on the whiteboard. So everyone knew. From then on I had to sit one couch square away from everyone. Carefully monitored for the rest of my stay so I didn't get too close to my mental peers.